Some folks think retirement means peace. A quiet house, slow mornings, no alarms. That's what I thought too once upon a time. But peace don't always come quiet. Sometimes it lingers heavy in the corners of your house, thick like secrets, quiet like guilt. My name is Aura Lee, and I've been retired from nursing for 7 years. I used to say I gave all my grace to my patients, which meant I had little left for Ellington, my husband of 42 years. We live in South Chicago, in a creaky old house with stairs that moan louder than a Baptist choir on Sunday morning. The kind of house built on memories and patched-up promises. I keep it clean, keep it quiet. I cook. I pray. I stay out of the way. Not because I'm meek, no ma'am, but because I got tired of fighting battles that don't end. Ellington and we don't argue much, not because we agree, but because I don't bother. I often tell myself, if peace was a person, she'd be tired by now. That's me. I'm peace. It started with a smell, not all at once, but like something creeping. Every time I passed the basement stairs, it hit me. Foul, moldy, but not just mildew. It was deeper, mustier, wrong. I asked Ellington about it one evening. He barely looked up from his paper and muttered, "Just old pipes, Aura." But it wasn't just old pipes. I know the smell of old. This was different, and different don't sit right with me. Weeks passed, and the smell stayed. One morning, I stood at the top of the basement stairs, coffee in hand, sniffing like a hound dog. I'd had enough. That's when I remembered Darnell. Used to come to Greater Emmanuel Church before he moved over west. He'd become an electrician, always polite, always on time. I called him that afternoon, told him I had a job. He said he'd swing by the next day after his last call. When I told Ellington, he frowned, didn't say much. Just rubbed his chin and said, "You ain't gotta go calling folks for every little thing." I just stared at him. A woman knows when something in her house ain't right. We smell betrayal like rain. You might not see the storm, but you feel the drop. The next evening, right after sunset, Darnell pulled up in his work van. Tall, clean-cut, with that wide smile black mamas love. He hugged me like I was his auntie. "Ms. Aura Lee, you still sharp as ever," he said, chuckling. Ellington came out the living room slow, hands in his pockets. "I'll show him," he said, before I could even finish greeting Darnell. Said it with that tone men get when they think somebody's looking too long. "Y'all go ahead," I said, stepping back toward the kitchen. I watched them from the corner, pretending to rinse a dish. Darnell tried to make small talk, but Ellington stayed close, not speaking much, just pacing like a man waiting on bad news. Darnell glanced at him sideways more than once. That kind of silence black folks know too well, the kind that ain't peaceful. It's hiding something. They made their way to the basement door. Darnell paused. "You smell that?" he asked. I nodded from across the hall. "That's why you here." He asked for a flashlight. Ellington handed him the one from the hall closet, not saying a word. As Darnell clicked it on and stepped down the first few creaky steps, I saw Ellington's hand grip the railing. Tight, too tight for just some old pipes. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching his jaw set hard like concrete. It took Darnell 5 minutes, maybe less. When he came back up, his face was different. Not scared, not shocked, but serious. "Ms. Aura Lee," he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "I think you might want to come take a look at this." Something in his voice. It wasn't panicked, but it wasn't light either. I felt the air shift. My heart started its own rhythm, the kind that drums just before a revelation. My mind ran. That locked drawer Ellington had kept hidden last year. The nights he stayed out late, running errands. The groceries I never saw cooked but kept disappearing. I told myself it was rats. Or mold. Something manageable. But the gut don't lie. When the truth knocks, it don't whisper. It kicks the damn door in. I moved slowly, one hand on the rail, the other bracing my back. Each step down that staircase was a memory I didn't want. Our wedding, our kids, the last time Ellington touched me with love instead of obligation. The smell got stronger. I reached the bottom. Darnell stood to the side, pointing toward the far corner. "I didn't touch anything," he said, voice low. I just turned on the light. I followed his finger. And just before my eyes adjusted, just before I saw what was down there, I felt something shift inside me. The part of me that believed in pretending, in keeping quiet, in being peace. That part broke clean in two. The basement air clung to my skin like regret. Damp paper, mildew, something sour, like old secrets finally breathing again. I stood at the bottom of those stairs, staring into a corner Darnell was pointing at, behind the boiler. That cabinet, he said, voice low. That lock don't look old. And he was right. The lock was shiny, new, still smelled like hardware store metal. Ellington stood at the top of the stairs, arms folded like a preacher who'd been caught mid-lie. Ain't nothing in there but tools, he said too fast, voice flat. I didn't say a word, just pulled my phone from my sweater pocket and started recording. Quietly. Darnell didn't ask no questions. He just knelt down, pulled out a flathead from his belt, and twisted the latch till it popped. Inside, manila folders, a stack of envelopes, some with my name on them, crossed out, others with my kids' names. Crossed out too. My breath caught in my throat, felt like swallowing broken glass. I reached in, hands trembling, pulled out the first folder, a copy of a will, one I'd never seen. The handwriting wasn't Ellington's, too neat, too clean. But his signature was there, mine, absent. There were life insurance documents too, original forms, and then updated versions. In the new ones, my name was replaced. My daughter's gone. Instead, some name I didn't recognize. Darnell backed up slow, like he'd touched something cursed. Ms. Oralee, he whispered. You might need a lawyer. I heard my grandmother's voice in my head, clear as Sunday morning. When folks show you who they are, believe them the first time. I felt Ellington come down 2 steps behind me, heard that creaky third step like a warning bell. Then he reached for the papers, tried to snatch them like they belonged to him. But not this time. I yanked back, voice steady even if my soul wasn't. You keep your hands where I can see 'em, Ellington. He froze. I slipped 2 of the most damning documents into my sweater pocket, folded so tight they almost cut through the fabric. The rest I tucked back in, slow and careful. I wasn't about to show all my cards, not yet. We made our way back up the stairs, every step louder than the one before. Then came the knock, not soft, not urgent, just there, like a knock that knew it would be answered. I opened the door and saw her, young woman, mid-20s, smooth skin, straight posture, church usher badge on her jacket. I'm looking for Mr. Ellington, she said, her voice light but rehearsed. Ellington stiffened like a man who just saw a ghost. Her eyes flicked toward the basement door, too fast for most to catch, but I saw it. I just came to drop off the package he asked for, she added, holding out a small box, wrapped in brown paper. I smiled. A tight, tired smile. Well, come on in, baby. Cold out there. Darnell gave me a look before slipping out the side door. Call me if you need anything tonight, he whispered as he passed. Inside, the girl sat awkwardly on the couch, clutching her purse. Ellington paced behind her like he forgot what room he was in. You want some tea, sugar? I asked, already heading to the kitchen. Make yourself comfortable. She nodded, but her hands didn't stop fidgeting. I watched from the stove, pouring hot water over 2 bags. So, you helping my husband with some church work? She blinked. Yes, ma'am. Community outreach. We've been organizing meal drives for the shelter. Didn't look me in the eye once. That's when I saw it. Around her neck, dangling on a thin gold chain, was a charm, a little anchor. I gave that to Ellington on our 25th anniversary. Had it engraved too. Steady in any storm. He said he lost it 2 years ago. I didn't say a word. Ellington stepped forward quick. We gotta get going, he muttered, taking her elbow. But she just got here, I said softly, stirring honey into the tea. You sure y'all ain't forgetting something? The girl stood up fast, eyes on the floor. I'll come by later. I nodded. You do that. When the door closed behind them, I stood still, let the silence press in. Later, I locked myself in the bedroom, heart still thudding, but my mind, it was calm. Too calm. like that quiet before a needle slides into skin. I spread the documents out on the bed, photographed every page, every forged line, every missing name. Back in the hospital, we used to spot infection early, before the fever came. This was festering for years. I just hadn't looked. I sat back, phone still in hand. I thought I knew the man I shared a bed with, I whispered to myself. Turns out, I was sleeping next to a stranger with a plan. Then, a whisper. Not from inside my head, but through the wall vent. Voices. Muffled. I crept closer, knelt by the floor vent. Ellington's voice. And hers? She's not supposed to find out yet, the girl said. I closed my eyes. And I listened. 2 mornings had passed since I heard that whisper through the vent, and something in me had shifted. I wasn't just watching anymore. I was documenting. My old nurse's instinct kicked in. Track the symptoms, measure the changes, prepare for the code blue. I bought a little black notebook from the corner store. Each page, neat handwriting. What time Ellington left the house, who he called, how long he stayed in the garage, what he brought in from the car. Even silence got a note. I wrote, didn't speak during dinner, kept checking phone under the table. When a man lies well, I scribbled one morning, it ain't just his words you watch, it's his silence. He'd start getting uneasy whenever I got too close to his home office. Once, I leaned on the doorframe just talking about dinner, and he shut the drawer like I'd asked him for his secrets. Receipts appeared on the kitchen counter from places I'd never been, fancy liquor stores, some out-of-state name brand I ain't seen on any shelf here. Then a gas bill from a city we didn't live in. Something wasn't adding up. One morning, after Ellington left for the barber shop, I stood in front of that locked drawer. I'd never touched it in all these years. I thought it was just a man's little corner of the world. But now, it was a vault. I grabbed a flathead knife from the kitchen and an old bobby pin from the bathroom drawer. Took a deep breath. My fingers weren't as steady as they used to be, but after a few careful clicks and one little pop, the drawer creaked open. Inside, tucked beneath a wrinkled grocery bag, was a phone, a second one, and under that, an envelope labeled, Closed, Deal, 1810, Westline Ave. I opened the envelope, and my stomach dropped. There it was, a full listing packet. Photos of my house, listed for sale without my name on any document. A red pending stamp across the page like a slap. He was trying to sell the house right out from under me. I powered on the second phone. No passcode. It opened right up. The messages hit me like cold air from a freezer. Stiff, biting, quiet. Ellington. She's attached to the place, but she'll adjust once it's done. Marcia, realtor. We should finalize by end of month. Her name's not on title, right? Ellington. She won't even know until she's out. I sat down right there on the floor, legs weak. That phone weighed more than it should. I copied every message, snapped photos of each paper. Then I emailed it all to an account I'd just set up at the library, using a name only I knew. Put everything back where it was. Reset the lock. Wiped the knife, like I was cleaning up after surgery. Then I called Mr. Gerard, a retired lawyer I once changed bandages for after his knee replacement. Told him I had a hypothetical involving real estate fraud between spouses. He didn't ask too many questions, told me to drop by next Thursday for coffee. Back in my bedroom, I started a folder. Just in case. Tucked behind an old Bible and my nursing license. It held everything now. Documents, flash drive, passwords, names. If this ship sinks, I said out loud to no one, I'm not going down with it. I'll be the one lighting the flare. That night, at dinner, I smiled. Poured Ellington sweet tea. Fried chicken, just like he liked. He went on and on about downsizing now that the kid's gone. Said he might be getting a nice payout soon. I nodded along. Said, sounds like you've been planning big things. Inside, I was writing a different blueprint. You think I'm the one being downsized? Watch me rezone the whole damn block. I switched to using cash that week. Canceled our joint credit card under the pretense of fraud, set up my own checking at a credit union. Called Sister Carolyn from church, asked her to recommend a home appraiser, said I was looking into estate planning. She sent her cousin that Friday, quiet and quick. That night, I watched Ellington sleep, his chest rising slow, steady. My phone was tucked under my pillow, still warm from the photos I'd taken. I didn't sleep, just listened to the sound of lies breathing beside me. 15 years back, he told me he was at Bible study. I knew something was off, so I drove over to the church. Empty lot. The car wasn't there. I drove past Jackson's Jazz Lounge, and there he was, smiling, hand on another woman's back, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I never said a word. I thought peace was better than truth, I whispered now. But I was wrong. This time, silence ain't about keeping peace. It's about strategy. Later that night, as I was brushing my hair, the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I needed to. A soft, anxious voice came through. I think you deserve to know what Ellington really did in 2004. Click. The line went dead. I woke with the weight of that voice still clinging to my ears. What Ellington really did in 2004. The way she said it, like it was a secret too heavy for daylight. I sat up slow, careful not to rattle the bed frame. The sun hadn't fully risen, but I didn't need light to see what I already knew in my bones. I moved through the house quiet as a breath. The air was thick, not from weather, but from knowing. Ellington's shoes weren't by the back door where he always left them. His coffee sat half full on the counter, steam still swirling. That told me he hadn't gone far. I pulled out my phone and checked the private email I'd set up. All the photos, the documents, the messages from his second phone, still there. It gave me a sliver of calm. But calm isn't peace. It's just quiet before thunder. I glanced toward the office door. That drawer. That phone. I hesitated. Fear don't always yell. Sometimes it just stands in the corner and watches you breathe. I knew I had to move before Ellington did. He was out back, trimming hedges or pretending to. I took my chance. The door creaked, soft and slow. I stepped in and closed it behind me, powered on the second phone, heart already picking up pace. The messages opened like a confession booth. Unread texts from a realtor popped up first, confirming appointments, pushing to finalize papers. One thread was labeled House Sale Plan. I tapped it. There they were, price points, notes on removing my name, legal language as cold as steel. My name wasn't even listed as a spouse, just occupant. And right under it, a text from Ellington. Once the papers are signed, she won't have a say. I didn't cry, didn't curse, just stared. Sometimes betrayal don't need fireworks, just silence and a screen. The door clicked behind me. My spine straightened. Ellington stood there, eyes wide. What are you doing in here? I didn't flinch. I turned the phone face down on the desk and looked at him calm as I could. Interesting texts. He blinked, stepped forward. What texts? I tilted my head. You really gonna act like you don't know? He reached for the phone. I stepped between it and him. Which part of I'm the one you cheated with did you think I'd skip? I asked, my voice lower than I expected, steadier too. His mouth moved, but no words came out. Then he scoffed. You're being paranoid, Orly. You always do this. No, I said, backing away slow. You always do this. I'm just finally paying attention. He opened his mouth again, but I was already walking past him. Let the texts scream for me. Out on the porch, I called Brielle, old friend, good lawyer. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. Gather everything, she said. Make a full record. Don't confront him until you're ready. I thought I was, I said. No, she replied. You're ready when you have backup. As I hung up, Ellington's phone buzzed again in my hand. I hadn't even realized I was still holding it. A text from the girl. The one from the church badge and cheap perfume. Did she see the file I dropped off? Ellington must have had the phone's speaker connected. I heard his voice from inside the house, loud enough through the window. She can't know yet. He was talking to her, still covering his tracks, still thinking I was behind. I stepped back inside, quiet. I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to prove I'd heard. The truth was stacking itself. Back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at nothing. And in the stillness, a memory crept in. A blue car parked behind the house years ago. He told me he'd rented it for a church trip. I found out months later it was a gift for some woman he met at a conference. I saw the pattern now. He'd always kept me just close enough to stay, but far enough to lie. I opened his phone again and drafted a new message, sent from him to me. I want the house sold. Proceed. I saved it. Not to trick him, to trap him. I would not be gaslit into questioning what my own eyes told me. I would not be sweet-talked back into silence. Just as I stood to put the phone away, it buzzed. New message, from Ellington. You should never have touched that phone. I froze. My hand hovered over the screen, and all I could think was, too late. The night was soft, almost too soft. Ellington had lit candles like he used to when we first moved in. Gospel played low from the speaker, one of Mahalia's old recordings, the kind that makes you feel like Sunday even on a Thursday. Dinner was set, pot roast, collard greens, cornbread warm from the oven. But I hadn't cooked out of love. I'd cooked out of clarity. He sat across from me, cutting his meat slow, talking about the news like we weren't living our own headlines. I watched him more than I listened. That's how you learn the truth, not from mouths, but from muscles. He glanced at me every few minutes, uneasy, like he could feel the temperature rising. I set my fork down gently. Sell the house behind my back again, I said, voice even. And it won't be divorce you worry about. It'll be exposure. His knife froze mid-slice. He blinked twice. Excuse me? I said what I said. He looked confused, but I could see it. He knew. He just didn't know how I knew. I've seen the messages. All of them. Marcia, the papers, your little plan to close before month's end. He leaned back. Oralee, you're twisting things. This is not a threat, I cut in. It's a promise. He stared at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. I got up, refilled his tea like nothing happened. The ice clinked against the glass as I set it in front of him. You used to be a good liar, I said, almost to myself. But age does something funny. It sharpens your hearing, your memory. He tried to laugh. You're making this more than it is. It's just business. You never cared about the money. I cared about the home we built, I said, locking eyes with him. You cared about the sale price. He looked away first. That silence was louder than any scream. The next morning, I met Betrayal at the community center. Bible study was going on in the next room. Our meeting didn't need to raise any flags. She pulled out papers, spreadsheets, emails. Some of these forms, they've been doctored. See this signature line? That's not yours, it's traced. I nodded once. No surprise, just another card in a crooked deck. We started building a timeline, every text, every deposit, every odd receipt, logged and backed up. I made 2 copies. One stayed in the church safe. The other, I slipped into a shoebox under my sister's bed. You want to fly? I said, quoting Toni Morrison. You gotta give up the things that weigh you down. 2 days later, Ayana showed up unannounced. Her eyes were tired, like she hadn't slept well. Mom, she said, stepping into the kitchen. Has Dad said anything weird to you lately? He's been asking me about your health. Real specific stuff, like if you've been forgetful. I didn't show it on my face, but inside, something tightened. I'm fine, I told her. But if he asks you to sign anything or lend money, just don't. She sat down, face crumbling. Why is he putting me in the middle of this? I took her hand. You don't have to pick sides, baby. Just stay smart. It hit me then, how silence had become the language of our house. How my quiet had taught my kids that secrets were normal, that betrayal was just marriage with a ring. I would not pass that legacy on. 3 evenings later, a woman waited in the church parking lot as I left choir rehearsal. She stepped from the shadows, nervous. Mrs. Williams? She asked. Yes. I'm Jasmine. I used to work for Ellington. I didn't say anything, just waited. He was laundering money, through the real estate side, faked listings, cash deals that never existed. I left when it got too deep. She reached into her purse, pulled out a flash drive. This has emails, voice notes, sale records, all of it. Why give it to me? You helped my aunt when she was dying. You brought her meals, stayed late. You didn't even know her name. I nodded, throat tight. This wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. I held the flash drive like it weighed 1,000 pounds. That night, I sat at my desk, the flash drive in my hand, staring at the computer screen, and Ellington walked in. He didn't speak, just stood there. I didn't look up right away. Then I did. Slow, deliberate. You still have a chance, I said, voice steady, to walk away with your name intact. He stepped closer. And you think you're the one with power now? I stood, brushed past him, and whispered without turning back. I don't think. I know. I walked into the community center that afternoon with my head held high, but every eye felt like a spotlight on me. Gossip was in the air. I could hear it in the whispers behind me when I passed, feel it in the way some folks glanced away too quickly. Brielle met me by the back door, her face tight. She handed me an anonymous flyer. My name sprawled across in bold letters. Aura Lee Williams accused of misusing community funds. The claim was straight from Ellington's playbook, something only he'd have the knowledge to spin. Volunteers I'd served beside for decades looked at me sideways. Those who once greeted me with hugs gave polite nods now. I felt my heart ache before my pride tightened. The world I built by faith, service, and hands worn from work, suddenly questioned by whispers and cheap ink. I flipped through the flyer. They had dates, dollar amounts, names, all edited to look so real your eyes would believe it before your heart caught up. I swallowed. I couldn't run, so I moved toward the gathering inside. As people lined up for food, I stepped forward. When someone asked about the flyer, I said nothing defensive. I said, "The truth has receipts. I'll bring mine next Sunday." Quiet. No drama. Just the words. I remembered a scripture. Let the liars prosper for a season, but the truth is everlasting. I said it out loud to the room. Ayana, my daughter, stood beside me. She didn't have to speak. Her presence said more than defense ever could. Some folks stiffened, others exhaled quietly. The rumor machine faltered. Back home, I built my war binder. 3 sections: documents, scripture, strategy. I recorded voice memos, imagining how I'd testify, how I'd remind them what loyalty looked like. I called Jasmine. I asked her to give me her statement, and she agreed. She recorded everything in her own voice, sealed it. I also reached out to an old family friend, retired judge, quietly asking how slander and hidden assets could be challenged in court. I would need every edge. Then Ellington showed up while Ayana was visiting. He walked in like nothing had changed. I didn't flinch. I said, "That flyer had your signature stink all over it." He laughed. A hollow sound. "You warned me. I'm warning you now. This ain't a game you want to play." He leaned closer, something dark behind his eyes. "Keep digging. More will come out." He didn't have to finish. Ayana's face twisted. She backed away. I met his gaze. "You keep showing me who you are. I believe you now." Later, I sat across from Marcus. He used to defend his father without question. I laid everything before him: texts, flyers, the flash drive. His expression flickered between disbelief and betrayal. He said, "Mom, I don't know what to believe." I didn't ask him to choose. I said, "I'm not asking for war. I'm preparing for peace on my terms." He nodded slowly and offered to help. Protect my name, get legal counsel. Pieces of his loyalty cracked away from his father. That night, I opened the mailbox. An envelope with no return address lay there. Inside, photos of me at the community center, doctored to look like I handed money to Jasmine. A sticky note read, "This game has rules. You broke 'em." I let the door close behind me, staring at that note. I whispered to myself, "Then let's change the damn rules." Sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay on top of the covers, one hand across my chest, the other tracing the edge of my Bible on the nightstand. My mind replayed every moment from the past week. The flyers, the lies, the flash drive, the way Ellington looked me in the eye and smiled like he still had the upper hand. There was a low hum in the silence, like something too quiet to hear, but too loud to ignore. Then, a click, soft, barely there. But I knew this house too well. That sound didn't belong. I sat up, moving slow, like fear might hear me if I moved too fast. I stepped toward the bedroom door, feeling the knob. The lock didn't feel right, like someone had touched it but tried to make it look untouched. I remembered what I'd told myself. I would not be a woman who lived in fear anymore. So I grabbed my small flashlight and eased the door open. The hallway stretched ahead, still and dim. I walked back into the bedroom, scanning the corners. My eyes landed on the dresser. The blanket I kept folded there was crooked, just enough to make me pause. I stepped closer. My breath caught. There it was, tucked just behind a picture frame. A pinhole. Too small to notice at a glance, too deliberate to be anything but what it was. A camera. I leaned in, heart thudding. I lifted the frame, and there it was. A small black lens staring back at me, like it had been watching for weeks. I peeled the shelf up gently. Wires, tucked into the wall, fed deep. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I just stood there, gripping the frame. Betrayal, don't kick down your door. It slips in through the cracks and waits. I grabbed my phone and recorded the camera from every angle. Followed the wire, took photos. Then slowly, carefully, I unplugged it. Slid it out like a bad tooth. I sat on the edge of the bed, camera in hand, when my phone buzzed. New email. No name, just, "Don't move forward until you see this." I opened it. Attachments, contracts, wire transfers, copies of emails, every last one of them tying Ellington to a surveillance setup. Multiple properties, some under aliases I didn't even recognize. One message read, "She won't find the camera behind the wall until it's too late." Too late for what? I saved everything to a secure folder and pulled out my notebook. I wrote down the time, the email address, the camera's location. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just planned. That's when the door opened. No knock. No warning. Ellington stepped in like it was still his house. His gaze flicked to the unplugged camera in my hand. I didn't say a word at first. Just let the silence eat at him. Then I handed him the printed email. He raised a brow. "I'm checking on you. You've been so on edge." I looked him dead in the eye. "You placed a camera in my bedroom. That's not checking. That's surveillance." He smirked, but his eyes wavered. "You've been paranoid, maybe seeing things." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I finally stopped ignoring the truth." He took a step closer. I stepped back. I turned off the bedroom light and walked out, leaving him there in the dark. Down in the study, I pulled out the rest of my files, the war binder, flash drive, USB backups. I made a folder labeled Insurance. Called Betrayal, kept my voice low. "There was a camera. I found it. And I got an email. It's all connected." She gasped. "Do not sit on this. Get him on record. If you can, confront him in public." I said, "They always reveal themselves in the dark. I'm done hiding." I sent the email to my backup drive. Then I drafted a new email with every attachment, every file, and addressed it to Marcus, Betrayal, and a legal contact. All I had to do was press send. Just then, my phone lit up. Text from Ellington. "You should never have pulled that wire." My finger hovered. One click could blow it wide open, could break it all down. The morning after the message from Ellington chilled my phone screen, I tried to settle back into routine. I went to service, kept my face steady, nodded at familiar faces like nothing was unraveling beneath my skin. But as I stepped back into my home and kicked my shoes off near the door, I saw something that made my chest tighten. A small, folded note, slid underneath the frame. Plain paper, no name. I opened it slowly. "Meet me where your son first said, 'Mama, I got this,' 6 p.m. My hand froze. That phrase, I could still hear Marcus, 19 and wide-eyed, saying it at that old chrome diner downtown when he gave me his first paycheck. The memory rushed back like floodwater. No signature, just that. But the handwriting, it looked familiar. Tight loops, rushed strokes. Jerome, Ellington's poker buddy. He always acted slick, but never too comfortable around me. Something about that man told me he played a dangerous game, but had a soft spot for truth. I folded the note, slipped it into my pocket, and told no one, not Brielle, not Marcus, not yet. The rest of the day crawled by like a stretched rubber band, waiting to snap. I spent those hours praying, thinking, planning. Maybe I was walking into a trap, or maybe truth had finally grown a backbone. At 5:45, I pulled my coat tight and walked into that old diner. Same cracked vinyl seats, same smell of grease and hope. I slid into the far booth, the one by the window, ordered a coffee, nothing more. Jerome walked in at exactly 6, didn't even take off his cap. He sat across from me like a man visiting confession. We didn't speak until the waitress left. Then he said, "You know a man can build a house and still not own it." I looked at him and didn't blink. "What house you talking about, Jerome?" He leaned in. "Ellington, he's got enemies, not just you. Backdoor deals, city contracts." He stepped on too many toes. "Why you telling me now?" "Because your name's on some of those papers," he said, sliding a flash drive across the table. "Ain't proof, but it's smoke. You follow the smoke, you'll find the fire." My fingers closed around the drive. "What's he planning?" "Leaving. Offshore account. Less than a week. He's gonna disappear with what y'all built." Back home, I didn't sit down. I marched straight to my old laptop, the one not connected to the internet. Plugged the drive in, dozens of files, receipts, contacts, surveillance footage from a storage unit. Not my house, but familiar enough. I clicked through until I saw it. Ellington meeting a young woman and a suited man. They were talking, laughing. The woman called him baby. I stared, jaw tight. Her name came up in a clip. Nina. My gut flipped. I remembered her. Real estate event, 3 years back. She sold ambition with a side of fake charm. Then I opened a document, list of properties. Some had my name. I never signed for those. My hands shook. If he went down for fraud, I'd go down with him. I shut the laptop, stood in the kitchen for a while, and let that anger simmer into resolve. I didn't need revenge. I needed truth loud enough to echo. I called Jasmine, told her to show up at the fundraiser. "Just be there," I said, "and bring a camera." I made copies of the flash drive and mailed one to my lawyer cousin out in D.C. Ayana helped me set up an encrypted site. I called it Open Light. If anything happened to me, it would go live with every file, every image. I wrote my speech for the fundraiser. Straight talk, no flames, no tears, just facts. "You can't out-yell a man like Ellington," I wrote, "but you can outlast him." Later that night, Marcus came over. He looked tired, worn. Said Ellington called, asked to meet. "You going?" I asked. He nodded. "I won't say much. Just want to see what he wants." "Record it," I said. "Don't let your heart get pulled where your eyes can't see." He lowered his head. "He's not just angry anymore, Ma. He's scared. Desperate." "Desperate men destroy what they can't control," I said. "But remember this. If we lose every dollar, we still got our name. And I'll be damned if mine dies dirty." We sat in silence after that. Not sad silence. The kind that holds understanding. As the sun dipped low and I sat preparing my notes, my phone buzzed with a stream notification from a neighborhood alert page. Missing person, Aura Lee Tompkins, last seen near 59th Prairie. I stared at the screen. My heart paused. But I was right there. At home. Alive. The morning of the fundraiser, I woke up to flashing lights outside my window. News vans, tripods, reporters huddled with coffee and cameras like they were camped out for a circus. Someone had leaked the missing person alert. My name was already on their tongues before I could open my mouth. I called Jasmine. They're parked outside like vultures. She sighed. Somebody wanted to paint you weak before you got to show you strong. But don't cancel. The mic's still yours. I didn't flinch. I wasn't about to let fear shut me up now. I pulled out the deep plum dress I wore to my mother's funeral. That day, I buried a woman who raised me with hard truth and open palms. Today, I was burying what Ellington built on lies. And I was the preacher and the grave. Before leaving, I set my laptop to upload every file to the encrypted site Ayana helped create. Timer locked for 7 p.m., unless I stopped it, just in case. I told Marcus to sit near the back, phone recording the whole thing. No matter what happens, we keep record, I said. By 6, the community center buzzed like a live wire. I walked in through the back, walked onto that stage, and the whispers rippled like wind through dry grass. I looked out at faces I'd known for decades, faces that trusted me, prayed with me, borrowed sugar from me, and I said, "We all got stories. Mine started in a house built on silence." I let the pause breathe. I thought I knew my husband, until I found the basement wasn't the lowest place he kept secrets. The room got quiet, real quiet. Then I opened the files. I told them about the fake businesses, the money meant for the block's youth center that ended up in offshore accounts. I showed them names, paperwork, signatures, surveillance, proof, gasps, a few whispered curses. One woman called out, "Jesus, have mercy." Jasmine was in the front row. Her phone, steady in her lap, caught everything. "I can't fix what Ellington did," I said, looking each person in the eye, "but I won't let y'all burn for a fire you ain't lit." Some clapped, some didn't. A few walked out, including the pastor's wife, who'd put $5,000 into Ellington's cleanup crew project. She didn't look back. After the speech, people lined up, not just to shake my hand, but to speak their own truths. "You just saved my daughter from investing with him next week," one woman whispered. "My daddy was just like him," a young man said. "Thanks for making me feel like I ain't crazy." Marcus showed me a message on his phone. Blocked number. "You should have stayed quiet." Betrayal arrived late, came straight to me and hugged me like I was both woman and monument. "You just became more than a mother," she said. "You became a movement." But I wasn't smiling. My eyes kept scanning. Because I knew Ellington wasn't the kind to go down without clawing someone with him. That night, after the noise died down and the flash drives were tucked in safe hands, the phone rang. Local news. They'd caught Ellington near the airport with $80,000 in cash and a bag full of burner phones. My stomach turned. A few hours later, the bank called. All our joint assets were frozen, including my retirement. I sat in the dark, staring at my name on legal documents I never signed. A lawyer friend, David, offered to help. "You saved your soul," he said. "Now we save your skin." Marcus suggested we sell the house, move somewhere quiet with Betrayal. I shook my head. I ain't running from what I exposed. I started drafting a formal complaint to the city's Board of Ethics. If they buried it, I'd make sure the world saw. The next morning, I opened the mailbox and found an envelope. No return address. Inside, a short note. "You broke the silence. I'm ready to testify. Tell them to call me Marlene." With it was an old photograph, Ellington and a young woman, Nina. Timestamp, 1994. This didn't start last year. It went back decades. Long before me. Long before Marcus. Truth had roots. I gathered Marcus, Betrayal, Ayana, sat them down. "What we started today ain't just about Ellington," I told them. "It's about truth, about how long it's been waiting for someone to stop whispering and start speaking." I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not yet, but clarity. Peace didn't come because the storm passed. It came because I stopped hiding from the rain. As I sat down at my desk that evening, my laptop dinged. A new file appeared on screen. No sender. Just a name. "For you. Not for court." I opened it. It was a video. Ellington, in the basement, talking to someone I never expected.